So we got 5 stories for you today. One of them being is that EA denied Dead Space 4, and also Mufasa is getting his ass kicked by Sonic the Hedgehog 3. And the main story of the day, Christopher Nolan's new movie officially has a synopsis and what is exactly going to be about. But before we get into that, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like the video, watch it all the way through for the after show. Let's get into it. So EA is probably one of the most disliked companies on the planet. I know growing up when I was in high school, EA is one of the worst corporation on earth. I don't know how many times. There was other companies in there that were doing oil spills and all this stuff, but EA somehow managed to beat them out several years in a row. But EA rejected recent Dead Space 4 pitch, original creators say. The original creators of much loved sci-fi horror video game Dead Space say they pitched EA on Dead Space for this year, only for the publisher to say it wasn't interested. In an interview with Dan Allen Gaming, Glenn Schofield and Christopher Stone and Brett Robbins, 3 of the leading creatives at the now shuttered original Dead Space developer EA Red Shores / Visceral Games, revealed that they all joined together to pitch EA on Dead Space 4. We tried, actually, the 3 of us, Schofield revealed. Dead Space 4, we're talking this year. Fortunately for Dead Space fans, EA said it wasn't interested, with Schofield suggesting projections for how many copies Dead Space 4 would have to sell to make the venture worthwhile were perhaps a key factor in the decision. We didn't go too deep, Schofield explained. They just said, we're not interested right now. We appreciate it, blah, 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 blah. We know who to talk to. So we didn't take it any further, and we respected their opinion. They know their numbers and what they have to ship and all that. So yeah. Stone added that the video game industry's high-profile struggles and subsequent risk aversion has made projects such as Dead Space 4 a particularly hard sell. The industry is in a weird place right now, Stone said. People are really hesitant to take chances on things. So you gotta take it with a grain of salt. Who knows, maybe one day. I think we'd all love to do it. Yeah, Schofield continued, we got some ideas. I'd make a Dead Space 4, Stone declared. Alas, it sounds Dead Space 4 is an unlikely prospect, with EA focusing on its normal successful sports games. So this story comes from IGN, and unfortunately, I don't think that there's not gonna be. I'm more than sure that there's gonna be a Dead Space 4 eventually, but Dead Space 2 still needs to come out as a remake, and they also to be honest with you, the way Dead Space 3 ended, it needs that entire game in general needs to be retconned with a new game, because Dead Space 3, I don't know if y'all played Dead Space 3, but that thing is a piece of garbage. It is garbage. Dead Space just is. And the story, the way it ends it, was very interested on how they ended it, but it's really difficult from where they would go from there, especially with the story changes that they made and how bad that game was. What I'm guessing they're gonna do is they're gonna do a Dead Space 2 remake, but also they're just gonna make an entire new Dead Space 3, which is what I would say that they should do. But let me know what you think in the comment section. Do you think that they should just redo Dead Space 3 and then make Dead Space 4, or should they just go to Dead Space 4? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. So one of the consoles that I never really got to enjoy because I was more of a PlayStation guy and a Nintendo guy when I was younger is a Dreamcast, and I was hoping that one day Sega would make a Dreamcast Mini so I could enjoy some of the games that were on there. I got to play some of the games with some friends, but I never really got to get into it. But my dreams are now crushed, and I'm hurt a little bit. Sega rules out Saturn or Dreamcast mini console. Sega has ruled out making any more mini consoles, dashing hopes for Saturn or Dreamcast revival. The company behind Sonic the Hedgehog has released a number of nostalgic-fueled mini consoles based on the Sega Genesis, but has so far stopped short of continuing the trend with a mini version of the 1994 Saturn or the 1998 Dreamcast, the latter of which was Sega's final console. Sega fans have over the last few years hoped that the company would continue its mini range, but in an interview with The Guardian, Sega's American and European CEO Shunji Yasumi said that it was looking forward to the future rather than the past for the new products. I'm not going for the mini direction, he said. It's not me. I want to embrace modern gamers. We are not a retro company. We really appreciate our legacy. We value it, but at the same time, we want to deliver something new. Otherwise, we'll become history. That's not what we're aiming for. And you know what? You can't hate that. as much as I want a Dreamcast Mini, and as like much as some people want the Saturn Mini, I can't blame Sega for doing this. Like they have a plan like to like, kind of bring back a lot of their old IPs like Crazy Taxi, Jet Set Radio, Shinobi, Golden Axe, Streets of Rage, Virtual Fighter. Like all those are in the works right now, and I think the last thing that you want to do is kind of like bring the past into what you want like to be seen in a different light. And like while Sega has a very nostalgic and good past with like consoles, that's not Sega anymore. They don't do that anymore, and they probably don't ever want to be that company anymore. They want to be the company that publishes great fun games that everybody thinks about, because to be honest with you, the past decade or two, like Sega hasn't really been relevant the way Capcom has, or like other companies like EA. Like Sega's just kind of been there, like selling games, selling Sonic the Hedgehog, and having their IP be a really good movie. But at the same time, like when it comes to its games being like iconic nowadays, it really isn't. So I don't blame them for doing this. This is kind of like the Steve Jobs situation of like where he didn't want to thank the Apple II team or the Apple I team like for making the original like most successful product that Apple's ever made. But they were releasing a new product that they were putting all their money into, and they didn't want to remind people of the past. And it's like, while that's harsh, in reality, when you're thinking about business, it's a smart, sound move, whether or not you agree with it or not. And this also suggests that Sega is also trying to do a subscription service, so we're thinking something and discussing something we cannot disclose right now, he said. So they're more than likely brainstorming a subscription service, and they want all these new games that are coming out to be hits and iconic and kind of bring back their IPs back to life, because honestly, like these IPs have a lot of like fans that will go buy them, like but they want it to be mainstream. They want it to be something big. And the biggest game that Sega's released so far is Alien Isolation, and they're also planning a sequel. So like this makes a lot of sense. I understand why they're doing it. It seems a little fucked up like to some people, like a little mean, but at the same time it's like business is business, you know what I'm saying? They want to make Sega relevant again, and I hope that they succeed. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Do you think this is the right move or the like wrong move for Sega? Like I think it's the right move, but let me know what you think in the comment section. Speaking of Sega, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is in theaters, and apparently it's whooping Mufasa's ass. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is leading Mufasa, the Lion King, in the box office race after one lap. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is off to a fast start at the domestic box office, pulling in $62 million during its opening week. That's significantly more than Mufasa the Lion King managed. Disney's live-action Prologue made $35 million during the same time period. An early victory for Sonic then, but there's slightly different story globally. Mufasa the Lion King opened to $87.2 million internationally, which combined with its domestic haul is enough to make it the #1 global release in the weekend with $22 million. However, Sonic the Hedgehog is yet to launch in all international markets, so a proper global comparison won't be possible until next week's numbers are in. Will Paramount be pleased with Sonic 3's performance so far? Sonic the Hedgehog 3 opened above the original 2020 Sonic the Hedgehog, which is $58 million, and just below 2022 Sonic the Hedgehog 2 at $72 million. Both films will hope for stickiness over the holiday period and into the new year. I'm really happy that these movies are successful, because if you remember when Sonic the Hedgehog was first announced, the design of Sonic the Hedgehog was really bad. Like it was comically bad. Like they took everything that made Sonic cool, which is like this Japanese flair to it that you can feel when you see him. They completely took it out and just put like a teddy bear. And I'm really glad that they changed it, and now we have that iconic Sonic look, because the first movie was just great. Sonic the Hedgehog and Sonic the Hedgehog 2 they're just really good movies. But the fact that they stick so close to the lore, the fact that they just make a really fun movie, listen to the fans, and then they're being they're reaping the rewards for that kind of ear to the fans. And I really hope that they do beat Mufasa internationally, just to show that video games have like that kind of performance, and they can make that kind of money in theaters. So like It's nice to see a good adaptation for once, and we're starting to get more of these great adaptations of video games that I really love, and I love watching. The Last of Us is great, Sonic the Hedgehog is really great, Fallout is really great, and as a gamer and as a geek, this is like the coolest era that I've lived through. Even a little bit cooler than the Avengers, like, even though that's still nerdy and that's still cool, but just cool that we're getting all the nerdy stuff in general. Like, video games and comic books are now viable things that people want to go watch, which is really cool. I'm glad that I got to live through that kind of era. On another note, Mufasa cost more than 200 million to produce and roughly 100 million to promote. So, like, even though they're beating Sonic the Hedgehog is kind of making that money because it didn't cost nearly as much as Mufasa. So that's a good thing. Let me know what you think in the comment section about the success. Do you think Sonic deserves this? Do you think Sonic is a lame franchise? Let me know what you think below. So Arcane is considered one of the best animated things ever made. Like, season 1 was really critically acclaimed and it was extremely popular and was one of Netflix's most watched shows that year. But new report says 250 million. Arcane was a financial miss. Riot co-founder insists it crushed for players, and so it crushed for us. The co-founder of Riot Games has responded to a report that claims League of Legends animated series Arcane was a financial miss. Bloomberg reported that Arcane 2 seasons cost an eye-watering 250 million to produce and market, and ultimately failed to generate enough gaming revenue for Riot despite winning a big audience on Netflix. The publication said Netflix paid $3 million per episode, with Riot owner Tencent handing over an additional $3 million per episode to show Arcane in China. All told, that's less than half the 250 million it cost Riot to bring Arcane to market. And according to Bloomberg, Tencent started asking Riot difficult questions between the release of season 1 and 2. The whole Bloomberg reported was that Arcane would feel an increase in players of League of Legends and turn a boost in spending. Riot made significant revenue from the sales of skins for League of Legends characters, some of which cost hundreds of dollars. Bloomberg said that Riot failed to capitalize on the success of season 1 with Arcane themed items, but had more time to do so ahead of the release of season 2. In a quote attributed to spokesman, Riot insisted that while Arcane wasn't profitable, the show should be considered a success overall, with the last month of the company's highest grossing revenue periods ever. Apparently, the second season is on track to at least break even financially. New Riot co-founder Mark Morelli has responded to the report, taking to Reddit to address discussions about it within League of Legends community. People who look at the world through a short-term, transactional, cynical lens really struggle to understand Riot, Morelli said. This has been true with various people trying to claim that high-quality free games won't work, that esports will never work, that our music was insane, are now saying that Arcane wasn't awesome and worth it. These people think we make things like Arcane to sell skins, when in reality, we sell skins to make things like Arcane. Riot is a mission-driven company where rioters are consistently striving to make it better to be a player. That is why we have successfully done that over and over across multiple games and now multiple business/mediums, games, sports, music, and animation. Do we get everything right? Nope. But we are focused on the short-term extraction of profits. We are focused on delivering exceptional value to our audience over the long term. Again, and again. To be clear, Arcane crushed for the players, and so it crushed for us. It's kind of like saying, like, you're gonna bet against Steven Spielberg, who has some of the catalog of best movies ever made, and you're like, his next one's gonna be a bad movie, and it turns out to be a hit. Well, like, to be fair, like, Riot Games has been kind of crushing it for the longest time, and they know what they're doing, and considering that their company has an all-time profit margin, like, for them to spend on an animation of 250 million, which the first one didn't really make that much money, but the second one is gonna break about even, to make that for your fans and to have fun and to, like, make a little money, maybe making a little money. And just, I think a lot of people are so stuck in, like, the toxic capitalism that we've had. Like, there's nothing wrong with capitalism. It's good to want to make money, but it is something to be said that if the only thing that you want to do is make extraordinary profits without actually giving back to your community and making a good product, you're not really going to make as much money as you think you are. And Riot Games has proved that over and over again with all their games that they've created. While yes, they have a lot of microtransactions in them, most of them do not affect the game, and it's mostly cosmetic. And they make a lot of money from it, not only because the skins are really nice, but because the game is really good. League of Legends is a great game. Like, all their other games are really fantastic, polished games that people love. And they made animation with Arcane, and it's considered one of the greatest animations ever made. The first and second season are so beloved by everybody, and critically acclaimed. Everybody loves them. They're very high quality, very well written characters, and like, it's a great story. It's probably some of the best anime thing ever that's come out to this day. That's how good Arcane is considered. And for them to maybe lose 250 million and then break even with the second season, to them it's nothing, because they're giving back to their community. And I think a lot of more companies need to understand that not everything has to be record-breaking numbers. I think we're seeing that with Astro Boy. That one game of the year essentially won the Oscars of video games, and now it's a beloved game, and it's more than likely going to sell a bunch of copies because it won game of the year. And so like, not everything needs to be a soul-crushing profit, and not give anything back. Riot has really put a stamp on like making high quality games, high quality animation, and apparently make really good music as well. So like, they're doing great. I think a lot more companies should take after Riot Games and actually give a high quality product so people can actually go buy your expensive skins that you want to justify. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Do you think Riot Games is correct? Do you think that they're wrong? Do you think that their games are even good? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. You could make the argument that we're living in the Christopher Nolan era, and he's just made really good movies. Like, I don't think he's ever made a movie that's really bad. There's some movies that I'm like, oh, that was a good, like, Tenet was a good movie. It wasn't great like the way Inception was, or The Prestige, or any of those other movies. Probably his worst movie, which is saying a lot because it's probably better than most movies that came out that year. But with that said, Christopher Nolan's new movie, we know what it's officially about. We've known for a while that he was making a movie, and now we know what it's about. Christopher Nolan's next film is officially The Odyssey, a mythic action epic shot across the world. Universal Pictures has revealed that Christopher Nolan's next film will be The Odyssey, a mythical action epic shot across the world using brand new IMAX film technology that will be released in theaters on July 17th, 2026. Nolan's The Odyssey will bring Homer Foundation saga to IMAX film screens for the first time, and it will be the retelling of ancient Greek epic poem that was first written in the 8th or 7th century. For those unfamiliar, the Odyssey follows a journey of Odysseus, the king of Icaea. No, that's not what it says. Ithaca, who travels the world for 10 years in attempt to get home after the Trojan War. While Universal didn't reveal any further details on Nolan's The Odyssey, reports have already been painting a picture of a stacked cast the film will have. Matt Damon was the first person reported to be in talks to star in Nolan's next film, which makes his return to Universal after 2023's Oppenheimer, which won 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. So, like, this crew is stacked. The actors that are going to be in it is going to be ridiculous. Charlize Theron, Tom Holland, Zendaya, Anne Hathaway, Lupita, Robert Pattinson. Like, almost everybody is in this movie. I'm surprised Robert Downey Jr. isn't in this movie, to be honest with you. But like, I'm really looking forward to Nolan making a movie that's outside of its comfort zone. I don't think he's ever made kind of like a Greek epic where like there's swords and there's horses and stuff like that. So this is probably the closest we'll get to like what Christopher Nolan would do with Game of Thrones if he had like a story from Game of Thrones, from the Ice and Song and Fire for him to make. This is probably the closest we're gonna get, and I can't wait to see what he does with this movie, because everything Christopher Nolan does is great. He finally won Best Director, which in my opinion he should have gotten for The Prestige, and he should have gotten for at least The Dark Knight, like one of the greatest superhero movies of all time. Honestly, I'm really excited for him to work with one person in particular, which is Tom Holland. I'm very curious to see what he'll do. Let me know what you think in the comment section. What do you think of Christopher Nolan's new details of his movie? Do you think it's going to be a good movie? Do you think Nolan can pull it off? I'm really hoping that that Nolan can pull it off. I do have a lot of I have a lot of belief in Christopher Nolan because the motherfucking just don't miss. Like, he just doesn't miss. So like, I'm really curious to see what he does. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you guys watching. I ate too much on Christmas, to be honest with you. Like, I usually eat like I try to keep myself around 1,500, 1,800 calories because I'm in a wheelchair. But I'm pretty sure I ate like double that of my calories yesterday, which is insane. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comment section below. How was your holiday? Let me know below. Put F in the comment section if you made it towards the end and tell me what you ate for your holidays. And remember, you're pretty good.